here are the biggest things to avoid on any sales call that you take. I don't care how high the ticket is. I don't care about what niche you're in. Here are the biggest things to avoid on every single sales call that you take. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, follow the channel for daily content like this, and let's get right into today's video.
Hey, my name is Jason Wojo. Welcome to my channel. I run a multiple seven-figure agency, so make sure you subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
So, number one thing to avoid on all sales calls is talking too much. When you talk too much, you now have given your prospect no room to give up all the leverage that you need at the end of the call to close them. You need to talk as least as possible. And these aren't just about like, hey, like, why would I talk less if I'm the one who's in command? You can still be in command without talking as much. And that's number one thing that I learned. And that's really interesting about like that movie Wolf of Wall Street, is that the first person who talks loses. As soon as you start talking too much, you seem too needy, you seem too desperate. You need to let the prospect do the selling for you. You need to let the prospect sell themselves. Just ask good questions that are leading into the close. Don't just ask questions just to ask questions. Then you start asking questions, then you start butting in the middle of their answer, giving them feedback. It's just like, let the prospect finish, then you talk. As soon as you try to interrupt, you look too reachy, you look too desperate. You're just trying too much to get the sale. And after a certain amount of times during the sales call, that prospect will realize that and they'll start giving you pushback. Seem like you're too aggressive, whatever the case may be. So that is number one thing, do not talk as much. Number two is, do not take your Zoom or sales call where you know that there's background noise or where there's not a professional background. I've seen this so many times, people. I'm like, do you understand that you're taking like your sales call in the middle of some kitchen? It's like, it's not a professional background to have. It doesn't signify that you are an authority. It just signifies that maybe you got lucky and got them to book a call and like, you know, you're just trying to sell them now because you don't look like you're in a professional background, so you really need this sale more than anything. It makes you even look more desperate. You don't have a professional background. Number three, well, the third thing to avoid on any sales call is talking about the actual price too soon, because then you can't really hone in on urgency or scarcity towards the end of the call. As soon as you start teasing budget constraints or what you're expecting the client to do before they even agree to sign on, is signifying, yeah, you're too desperate as well. That you're trying to just qualify them too much with price, and you're gonna get more pushback as well during that call. Number four thing to avoid is coming to the call not prepared. I see a lot of sales professionals who come to the call and they're just relying on X questions that were answered in a qualification form. You don't need just that. You need to do research on the company. You need to be able to bring practical case studies and practical strategies and results to that call to entice the prospect to listen to you more, because then you come from a place of authority, past results, and trust. And if you can't bring any prior research or any prior result to that sales call that's congruent to, to that prospect, then you're really gonna have a gap there. So for example, right, if I'm talking to a coach or consultant or service provider, let's say I'm talking to a cabinet company, right, a cabinet refurbishing company, and they're like, yeah, we do custom cabinets for kitchens, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, that's cool. Like, how many more leads would you want a week? Well, we would want maybe 2 to 3 leads a week. Well, that's crazy, because we just have a kitchen remodeler, not the same not the same service, but something similar. Like, we just got a kitchen remodeler, and their ticket size is just about the same exact price point as yours, and we're getting them about 8 to 10 new leads a week, and we're paying about $40 a lead. Is that something that would really be exciting for you, or is that something that you can afford to pay X amount of leads if you got 10 qualified leads every single week? Is that something that you would say yes to? Like, you're kind of teasing the end close with giving them kind of an expectations that they would want to commit to, because that means you're checking off a box. The next thing to avoid on any sales call is also a lack of tonality. When you have a lack of tonality, it shows a lack of confidence, shows a lack of expertise, and it shows a lack of just overall congruency with what you want the ambiance of the sales call to be. When your tonality is shit, you seem bored, maybe you yawn in the middle of the call, or you're like moving around too much, you're getting distracted like you can see on a Zoom call. If you're looking at the camera, then you look away to your phone. Look at the camera, look away to your phone. The prospect now feels like they're not important. So having good tonality, staying focused, having that same wavelength of ambiance with the prospect is gonna allow you to be on that same wavelength with them. And the last thing to avoid on any sales call is not believing in your product or service. A lot of people get to the close and they only pitch the price. They should be pitching price, passion, and results, right? Because what they're getting, you need to understand that people might not have seen this price point before, or they've never signed up with a company like yours before, or whatever the case may be. They need to know why this price point makes sense. Don't just go into it with price and bullet points. Go into it with price. Okay, well, at this amount a month, we would just need to book you 15 leads a month and you would make your money back, right? Well, as discussed before, we were able to get that company 8 to 10 a week, and that's about 32 to 40. So we're already almost at triple the expectations, and I'm not gonna guarantee you that. I'm just giving you simple expectations that you can expect if you're able to do these things for us. Get us the right content, communicate with us, make your onboarding process streamlined. Like, you're putting them now in the place where it's like, hey, we don't need you, we need you to step up to the plate. So now you're kind of transferring the sales call to them to see if they can keep up with you. It's not so much of a defensive mechanism of okay, I have to play within the cards of you. You need to be like, hey, listen, in order for this to work, you actually need to do something. Because we're not like all these other companies that say, oh, it's all done for you, all done for you. It's like, no, you kind of pull them back to reality. And in the end, you can get them on a more emotional balance beam of okay, listen, all the stuff you heard today is really cool. We had a good conversation, but I need to get on a serious level with it right now. If you really want to move forward with us, we need to really focus on these points. Can you do that with me? That's where you kind of bring them down to ground level with you, where it's like, hey, listen, I feel like you're about to agree to this, so let's kind of get serious here. And that's where it's easier to close the prospect. You get them more toned down, because if you keep them heightened throughout the whole call, now they can even get more pushback at the end because they're at a heightened state. You need to bring them back down to a level state where there's more, just professionalism, there's an easier tonality to play with, and you're able to convince them at an easier level. So I hope this helps you out with your sales calls, just the top things to avoid on any sales call, so that you can start closing more deals. So comment, and subscribe, and make sure you do subscribe for daily content just like this, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.
Hey, my name is Jason Wojo. Welcome to my channel. I run a multiple seven-figure agency. For the past 4 years, I've helped generate me and my clients over $75 million, and I've been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine and New York Weekly's 30 Under 30.